A rich woman makes fun of a poor single mom at the grocery store, but what happens next will surprise you. So keep watching to hear the full story. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us in the comments where you're watching from. We love sharing great stories with our amazing viewers all over the world. It was a cold Saturday morning, and the grocery store was full of people. Among them was Sarah, a single mom in her early 30s. She wore a simple sweater and jeans with her hair pulled back in a messy bun. She looked tired, like she hadn't slept well in weeks, but still had a warm smile as she pushed her cart down the aisles. Her little daughter, Lily, sat in the cart enjoying a snack. Sarah carefully chose what to buy, checking prices and sticking to her budget. She didn't have a lot of money, but she worked hard to give Lily everything she needed. Every dollar mattered, and she was used to making sacrifices for her child. Meanwhile, in the same store, there was another woman named Victoria, who was the complete opposite. Victoria was the total opposite of Sarah. She was in her late 40s, dressed in designer clothes from head to toe, with a sparkling diamond bracelet on her wrist and a handbag that probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. She walked through the store like she owned the place, her high heels clicking loudly on the floor. She wasn't shopping for herself, she had people for that. She was just picking up a few fancy items for a dinner party she was hosting that night. By chance, Victoria and Sarah ended up in the same aisle. Sarah was comparing cereal prices, while little Lily giggled and pointed at the colorful boxes. Meanwhile, Victoria impatiently searched for a specific brand of imported olive oil. When she glanced at Sarah and Lily, her perfectly shaped eyebrows rose slightly and she let out a quiet, mocking laugh. Then she said in a smug voice, "If you can't afford the good stuff, maybe you shouldn't be shopping here." Sarah froze, not sure if she heard that right, and turned to see Victoria smirking like she'd said something clever. Sarah's face turned red with embarrassment, but she quickly stayed calm. She wasn't the kind of person to cause a scene, especially not in front of her daughter. "I'm just trying to get what my daughter needs," she said quietly, her voice steady even though Victoria's words hurt. Victoria rolled her eyes and said, "Well, maybe if you worked harder, you wouldn't be barely getting by. People like you are what's wrong with the world." Sarah didn't say anything back. She just turned to the shelf, trying to stay focused. Little Lily, who had been watching everything, looked up with wide, innocent eyes and asked, "Mommy, why is that lady being mean?" Sarah's heart sank. She knelt down and gently told her, "Sometimes people say unkind things, but we don't have to let it upset us, okay?" Victoria overheard and laughed again. "Teaching your kid to settle for less? No wonder you're stuck where you are." By now, other shoppers had noticed what was happening. Some looked uncomfortable while others whispered to each other, clearly unhappy with Victoria's behavior. But Victoria didn't care. She was used to saying whatever she wanted without consequences. Sarah decided it was best to just walk away. She pushed her cart to the next aisle, trying to forget the rude encounter. But a mix of anger and sadness lingered. She had worked so hard to build a life for her daughter, yet people like Victoria still looked down on her like she was nothing. Meanwhile, Victoria kept shopping, completely unbothered by what had just happened. After picking out her items, she headed to the checkout line and scrolled through her phone. Suddenly, there was a bit of excitement near the store's entrance. A tall, confident man in a suit walked in, surrounded by a few people who looked like security. He clearly seemed important, and Victoria's curiosity grew. She watched closely as the man looked around the store until his eyes landed on Sarah, who was now picking out produce. To Victoria's shock, the man's face lit up with a big smile, and he walked straight over to Sarah. "Sarah," he called, warmly. Sarah looked up, surprised, and smiled politely. "Oh, hi, Mr. Bennett," she said. Victoria's jaw dropped. "Mr. Bennett? As in James Bennett, the billionaire philanthropist and CEO of one of the biggest companies in the country?" Victoria couldn't believe her eyes. What on earth was James Bennett doing talking to someone like Sarah? James warmly shook Sarah's hand and said, "It's so good to see you. How have you been?" Sarah smiled and replied, "I've been good, thank you. Just trying to keep up with this little one," she said, motioning to Lily, who was now shyly hiding behind her. James chuckled. She's getting so big. We still talk about you at the foundation. You did such an amazing job with that project last year. Victoria was stunned. Foundation? Project? What was going on? James continued. I've been meaning to reach out. We've got another big initiative coming up, and I can't think of anyone better to lead it than you. It comes with a nice raise and more flexible hours so you can spend more time with Lily. Sarah looked touched and said, "So that means so much to me, Mr. Bennett. I'd love to be part of it." As they continued talking, Victoria felt like the floor had vanished beneath her. She had thought Sarah was just another struggling single mom. But now it was clear. Sarah was someone important, respected, and successful, with real connections and a bright future. James was offering Sarah an even better opportunity, and Victoria suddenly felt very small. She remembered the harsh things she had said earlier and felt a wave of guilt. She had judged Sarah just by how she looked, without knowing anything about her. After James said goodbye and walked away, Sarah continued shopping. Victoria, unable to hold back, walked over to her and said awkwardly, I didn't realize who you were." Her voice was completely different now. Sarah looked at her calmly and said, "It shouldn't matter who I am. You shouldn't treat anyone the way you treated me." Victoria opened her mouth to reply but had nothing to say. She simply nodded and walked away, her face red with shame. As Sarah finished her shopping and headed to the checkout, she felt proud, not because of her connection to James Bennett, but because she had stayed true to herself. She had shown her daughter that being kind and respectful matters more than money or status. And as for Victoria, she left the store with a lot on her mind. For the first time in a long time, she realized that wealth and designer clothes didn't make her better than anyone else, and maybe, just maybe, it was time to change. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Have a beautiful day, and we'll see you in the next video.